everyday people like myself, and I was thinking, if you think about your house, if you've lived in your house for 10, 20, 25 years, imagine being able to say that there was a human being in your house at all times, 24/7, for 25 years. There was never a moment where there wasn't a human inside. Obviously, we go on vacations, we go shopping, we do things, and we leave our house. But this house floating around this planet, never has it been interrupted. That's amazing.
Yeah, and we spent the first 10 years living in it while it was being built.
For anybody who's ever lived through a renovation, they know what that's like. Hey, look at this.
Outstanding.
There is our commander. We are in the suit-up room. That's Zena Cardman, and she's getting the final checks for her suit. This is the historic suit-up room, one of several spaces on the third floor of the Neil A. Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building, known as crew quarters. The crew has been living and working here for more than a week, their final stop before launch, and their home base through pre-flight quarantine. They actually came in, I believe it was on a Friday or Saturday, so it's only been 6 days in quarantine or so, and now they are getting ready to get the final checks for their suits while they put on all the final components as well.
Yeah, and they start quarantine actually back in Houston for a week before they ever come back down to Florida. So they have about 2 weeks in quarantine to make sure that anything in their system clears out before they head up to the space station.
Now they're in their launch seats. What's interesting about the seats that they're sitting in is each one of these seats matches identically to the one inside the Dragon Endeavour spacecraft.
Yeah, and they're going through their suit leak checks here. They've zipped up. They're making sure that that their suit would hold pressure. Now, when they launch in these, you don't expect them to pressurize. It's only in the event of an emergency that you'd need it to pressurize. So in the unpressurized configuration, they're actually really comfortable to sit in.
Well, you know that guy's ready to go. That's Mike Fincke, our pilot for today. Call sign Spanky. Got a great sense of humor, and he's a live wire sometimes.
He is. He keeps you on your toes. Absolutely. And you can see his
I
smile.
think he heard us. Big wave. What kind of feelings are they going through in this moment? What are they feeling?
From a just being there, putting the suit on, you can imagine you're putting on a pressure suit. So there's a plastic bladder inside of there. So you're putting on essentially a Ziploc bag that is shaped the size of you, and then there's some material on there to hold it all together. So it can get quite warm, actually. So that's why they hook up the umbilical. You can see there, it's providing pressure, but it's also providing cooling air blowing in there while they're sitting there. It doesn't take long before you start sweating. So it's quite similar to just stepping out the door here in Florida today. You step out and you start sweating.
Well, let's get to know the crew today, Crew 11. And we'll take a closer look by starting with our commander for today, someone Nick Hague knows very well, Zena Cardman. NASA astronaut Zena Cardman is commanding Crew 11. She was born in Urbana, Illinois, but calls Williamsburg, Virginia, her hometown. She is a scientist at heart with degrees in biology and marine science from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Before joining NASA, Zena did fieldwork in some of the most extreme environments on Earth, including Antarctica, the Canadian High Arctic, and volcanic terrain in Idaho and Hawaii. She was selected as part of NASA's 27 astronaut class known as the Turtles. Zena was originally assigned to Crew 9, but was later reassigned to command Crew 11 to support changes in station operations. And when she's not training for spaceflight, she enjoys rock climbing, writing poetry, and powerlifting. And there she is with a big smile and a lot of excitement. She shakes hands with some staff there. We mentioned that she was originally assigned the commander of Crew 9. You know this situation well because you were the pilot at that time.
Yeah.
You switched to commander. She was reassigned to a later mission. Tell me about that. How did that work, and why was that the case?
Yeah, so the decision to make that change was motivated by the need to get Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams home. The Starliner spacecraft, the decision was made to return that without a crew, and so we needed to create space in the Crew 9 vehicle. And so very late, within a month or so of our launch, the decision was made to go from a crew of 4 to a crew of 2. And so then how does that happen? You find out on Friday, this is what's going to happen. And then on Monday, Zena and Stephanie and I are in the simulators trying to figure out, okay, so how does that impact us operationally? And we're working together for the next couple weeks to try to figure out how to do that successfully. And so it's a treat to be here to see Zena getting ready to launch. Just knowing that the professional that she is in terms of how we respond to those dynamic situations that spaceflight throws at you.
Absolutely. And for those who remember, if you were watching Crew 9, Zena Cardman was our co-host when Nick Hague went up into space and spent the 5 hours documenting his journey. Next up is Michael Fincke. He is our Crew 11 pilot. He goes by the call sign Spanky. And there he is. He's a Pennsylvania native and a veteran of 3 previous space flights, spending more than a year of his life in orbit. He first flew to space in 2004 as a flight engineer on Expedition 9, then returned in 2009 to command Expedition 18, where he helped prep the station Fincke's also been a key player in NASA's commercial crew efforts, supporting development of the Boeing Starliner. He served as a backup pilot for crew flight test, helping shape Starliner's avionics and software from the ground up. He also co-hosted a launch broadcast. Outside of spaceflight, he's a passionate learner into geology, astronomy, reading, and languages, and he's conversant in both Japanese and Russian, certainly a skill that will come in handy on the International Space Station and inside his capsule, as he gives us a big wave.
Yeah, no, Spanky's an unbelievable human. He is so sharp. He's also a retired Air Force officer, flight test engineer. I bring that up because I'm a flight test engineer as well, so we share some of the same perspectives. It was fun to work with him on the Starliner program and just learn everything you could from him. He's a wealth of knowledge.
14 years after flying Endeavour to the International Space Station to help build it, he is flying Dragon Endeavour to see the finished work.
Yeah. It'll be exciting for him because it's changed a little bit since he's been there last time. So some things will be very familiar and some things will be new.
Let's move on now to our mission specialist. One for Crew 11 is Kimiya Yui, representing the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA. He's a former test pilot and Air Force officer. Yui graduated from Japan's National Defense Academy in 1992 and rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel in the Japanese Air Self-Defense Force. He was selected as a JAXA astronaut in 2009 and made his first trip to space in 2015, spending 142 days aboard the International Space Station as part of Expeditions 44 and 45. During that mission, he made history as the first Japanese astronaut to capture JAXA's H-2 transfer vehicle, a crucial piece of cargo hardware. He also helped build out a new experimental module inside the Kibo, Japan's laboratory on station, and he carried out 21 experiments on behalf of JAXA. In 2016, Yui was named chief of JAXA's astronaut group, and today he's on his way back to space. Shares a lot of similarity with your background, Nick.
Yeah, no, Kimiya is great, and I've had the chance to work with him intermittently over the last decade, and that's just one of the treats of being part of the astronaut corps is getting to work with our international partners and our colleagues, and to see the same sense of passion that they share for the human exploration of space that everybody in the U.S. does.
That common bond, even from a country, clear across the other side of the world.
It's infectious and it's universal.
And you get to go over there to those locations and train with their agencies as well, right?
Absolutely. And that's some of the special parts of the training program is getting to go visit, experience the culture, maybe even sing a little karaoke.
That sounds like a story, something you've done.
Not well.
I won't put you on the spot and ask you to hum a few tunes, a couple space tunes, at least not yet. Let's round out the crew and get to Oleg Platonov. He's our mission specialist, flying to space for the very first time. He's a cosmonaut with Roscosmos. There he is. That, of course, is Russia's space agency. He's a graduate of the Krasnodar Higher Military Aviation School of Pilots, where he earned a degree in engineering and the rank of lieutenant. Platonov completed his cosmonaut training in 2018 and was certified as a test cosmonaut that same year. Earlier this year, Roscosmos announced he would launch to the International Space Station aboard a Crew Dragon vehicle as part of Crew 11, marking a new chapter in international collaboration. He is married, has one child, and today begins his first journey to space.
Yeah, so right now you can see him in the suit-up room. He's just finished his leak check, and now it's time to take pictures with all the support crew. It's exciting. The first time you're getting ready to suit up to go, there's a lot of uncertainty. They've done the dry dress just a few days ago, so they know what's happening. But what was missing during the dry dress that's there now is all of the emotions leading up to that the moment of liftoff.
And they had a successful dry dress. Everything went according to plan. It was supposed to be followed by a static fire, but that was that stopped at around 54 seconds. They then did the static fire the next day, and it checked out. There was an issue apparently with some ground equipment, but moved past that pretty quick and got a test fire, a full duration test fire of those engines that they will ride today.
Yep, all systems go.
Everyone who you see in the room wearing a black ninja suit, we call them ninja suits, there they are SpaceX employees, except for this gentleman right here, number 30. That is astronaut Marcos Barrios. He is in the role of astronaut support person, or what we call the ASP. And tell me what his role today will be.
Yeah, so he's the direct support to the crew. Effectively, he's the representative for the Flight Operations Directorate and the astronaut office. He is the person that's going to ride with the crew and the launch pad team all the way to the launch pad. He'll be there at the White Room and be able to observe and make sure that everything is going well. And also, whatever the crew needs, he's there to ensure that they get that last little support up until the hatch closes.
Did you call upon the ASP for any reason in any of your flights?
I'm trying to think
through the archives.
Yeah, no. It was just comforting to know, and so it's like, hey, can you let my wife know, pass a little message. There's some, emotional, psychological support aspects of this more than just the logistical aspects. And it was nice to know there was somebody always there watching your back.
Comforting.
Yep.
It really must be. He's a fellow astronaut. He's in your office. You see him regularly, and especially on the training for the mission, you see him throughout.
Yeah, and for the last 2 weeks, he's been in quarantine with the crew. So you've got very close contact with him, and they're watching and following and tracking everything that's going on with you and giving you what you need.
As we see the crew there, the 4 members of Crew 11, spending their last minutes with many of the individuals who have helped them suit up to this point. They'll depart in their crews to go out to the pad. Let's talk a little bit about how this crew trained extensively for this mission. Nick, talk me through some of the training that we're going to see here shortly that begins with, well, hold on one second. I see a card game starting to form and astronauts gathering around the table. So let's talk about that. This is an important moment and a tradition as well.
Yeah, the astronauts are not anything if they're not superstitious. So this is one of those traditions. The chief of the office, you can see there, Joe Akaba, is is dealing out a game. The game changes, you know, every mission. It's really up to the chief of the office to figure out what that game's going to be. But the goal is the same. You go until the commander wins, and you have shaken off all of the bad luck, if you will. Sometimes it can go quick. Sometimes you need a few hands to make sure everything works out.
What game did you play?
We just went straight high card.
High card, yeah,
high
I see that a lot.
High card. It was simple, and it took one hand, and we were ready to go.
And I believe that this deck of cards that they're using is the deck of cards that was designed, has the drawings of Zena Cardman.
Yeah, she's a lot of things. She's also an artist, and so she has a tendency to do up a special deck of cards for crews that she's associated with, and looks like they're down to the final two.
She keeps winning. Finally, I think she. No, she's still. Mike Fincke and the commander still holding in.
We may have to shuffle the deck.
This may be a first, Nick.
It's the way you always want it. You playing against
down
your
to
boss.
The commander and the chief.
There you go. Now we got it. It's time to go.
Chief of the astronaut, Joe Acaba, finally winning that hand. It took him only about 20 hands. But that's what you want to see. Like you said, this is the point. You want the commander to shake off and burn off all that bad luck. I see another astronaut there in the corner in the left-hand side there.
Yep, Eric Bowe. He is the chief of our Vito office, so basically the astronaut office that owns the crew quarters. All right, they're lining up. They've said their last goodbyes. You see all the ninjas there, the SpaceX support personnel. You know, they're the same ones that have supported you through training and your weeks of training out in Hawthorne.
Speaking of training, let's get back to that training video that we were going to show just a little bit earlier. And talk me through, Nick, what kind of training this is.
Yeah, so here we've got some search and rescue training, and so this is in the neutral buoyancy laboratory at Johnson Space Center. You know, the capsule there, the focus of this training is everything that happens outside the capsule. So we have a generic capsule that you get out of, and then we simulate what you would need to do if you landed in water and needed to be rescued by search and rescue forces.
While somebody sprays you in the face with a hose?
Well, in theory, but that's to simulate the helicopter above head and the prop wash that you would get there from the rescue forces that come out of Det 3 here just at Patrick Space Force Base, and the search and rescue forces that DoD has stationed around the globe that can respond if needed. And
here, of course, emergency training?
Yeah, on board, you've got to be the jack of all trades, and so you need to be prepared to respond to a medical emergency if you needed to. And so we practice integrated training to respond to somebody that needs help.
All right, our cameras that were in the suit-up room are now repositioning for the astronauts' departure from the astronaut crew quarters. And while they do that, we want to invite you, the audience. Thank you so much for joining us and being a part of today's coverage, the launch of Crew 11 to the International Space Station. We're taking your questions live using the hashtag AskNASA. So if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, X, or Twitch, or streaming, just drop us a question and join the conversation. We're here. Nick's ready. And we've got a few questions that we can take right now. Before we do that, though, check out this view from up high. This is the building and the facility that we were talking about, astronaut crew quarters, inside another building, the Operations and Checkout Building.
Yep, ONC. And so you can see the You can see the caravan lined up there, getting ready to the convoy of support vehicles lined up and ready for the crew to come out and hop in.
Those 3 Teslas will ride out to the pad. You'll have 2 astronauts in 2 cars. And of course, these are equipped to keep the astronauts comfortable as they drive out to the pad, which is roughly a 20-minute drive from this location.
Yeah, they've got little cooling packs that you can connect to. Same cooling packs you might have seen in the footage from the suit room while they were standing around and saying their last goodbyes that they were hooked up to. They'll move those cooling packs into the cars. Like I said, if you don't hook up to that cold air, you'll start to sweat pretty quickly.
Absolutely, especially in this heat. It doesn't take much.
Yeah, you can see some of the families coming in to be able to say their goodbyes.
Well, we've got a question that came in. Unicorn Tail on X asks, how long does it take to build the rocket and prepare for takeoff?
Yeah. So we had the fortune as we were preparing for Crew 9 to meet the team out in Hawthorne that built the booster as it was being ready to ship out, and it's amazing to see, and every time you peel back another layer of the team, you find another group of 30 or 40 people that are just working tirelessly, and so it takes months, years to get to that point. You're looking at a booster here that's flown before, and how can you tell that? It's got a little bit of soot on the side, and so the turnaround for the vehicles or for the rockets is much quicker, but the initial construction takes some time.
And this booster that you mentioned, flying 2 previous flights, Starlink and Axiom 4, which what's impressive to me about that is Axiom 4 was just last month. And so they have gotten, SpaceX has, able to turn around the refurbishment of a booster in that amount of time is incredible.
It's a beautiful view.
A beautiful view, and we mentioned the heat. There is a heat advisory today, but in the early going, the cool hours of the morning, SpaceX did some get-ahead work today to prepare for propellant load, which comes much later in our timeline, around T-minus 35 minutes, about 3 hours from now. But some forward work that they wanted to get done in the cool temperatures before that heat really gets cranking. Expecting probably up around 90 today when we get to our top heat index for the day.
Yeah, it's important that the pad crews don't have the fortune of the astronauts who are hooked up to cooling packs, and so they've got to make sure the entire team stays safe.
Absolutely. You talk about the team. There's so many people that are involved in the launching of a rocket. Thousands, especially when we're talking about launching humans into space. And so, Nick, not too long ago, just a week or so ago, you came to the Kennedy Space Center to visit, to say thank you to a lot of the people who supported your Crew 9 mission.
Yeah, it's a treat. In the lead up to launch, in the months of training, you don't have the opportunity because you're so scheduled. You don't have the opportunity to get to meet everyone, and so going through the headquarters building, everybody from the top floor down to the guys here in the mail room, everybody serves a critical function that keeps this machine working and flowing and able to do the things that we're about to witness that are just really hard to do. And so it was a treat to come over here to Kennedy Space Center. It's a treat to visit over on the Space Force side at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and Patrick Space Force Base. That joint team, it makes this place extremely special. This is the preeminent place to launch humans into space. And that workforce makes it happen every day.
And it is still the only place in the world at the moment where you can launch astronauts to the moon. And of course, that is going to happen again early next year with the Artemis II mission. A very special place indeed. And now you're looking at the doors that Crew 11 will exit out of. This is a very historic part of the walkout. It's called walkout. This is where all 4 crew members come out. We are going to watch them leave the crew quarters and then come out to greet their family that we showed you in those wide shots. You're watching live coverage of the launch of NASA and SpaceX's Crew 11 to the International Space Station. We are currently T-minus 3 hours and 32 minutes until liftoff. We are awaiting the crew's departure of the astronaut crew quarters, where they have been for a little less than a week, preparing for their mission to go into space. Inside now, you're looking at the hallway that they'll walk down. Earlier, they were getting suited up and having those suits checked out with pressure checks. This is a look at some of the art in the hallway that the astronauts will walk down. You know, in many senses, this 26,000 square foot area that the astronauts you get to use when you get ready to do a mission resembles very much a college dorm room. I've been through there. That's what it seems like to me. It's very simple. It's not overstated. But that art on the hallway there really adds a touch.
It does. It's, you know, there's something about the intrigue of space exploration that harnesses the imagination and humanity's creativity. And, you know, the artwork that they've got displayed there, the artwork that I get sent in the mail from kids across the globe. Oh. And it lets you know that there's something so very organic about the need to explore.
That is awesome. I can imagine getting those pictures, how moving something like that is when a young person takes the time to create an image inspired by what they see you do, what they see your colleagues do. You've been listening to astronaut Nick Hague, Brigadier General with the U.S. Space Force. He is here to provide us commentary throughout this entire operation, leading all the way up to liftoff and a little bit thereafter until the astronauts get into orbit. We will document every move.
You can see the families that have moved into position there. They're waiting for this walkout. You know, this is the last chance to say goodbye. There's lots of goodbyes leading up to launch. And last opportunities, and over the course of the last few days, there's been, you know, the families are in quarantine as well, so that they can have special moments and quiet moments and say the things that they want to say before they leave for 6 months plus. And but this is the last chance you get to look your spouse or your kids in the eye and say, you know, goodbye, love you, and I'll see you in a few months.
And those vehicles that will take them away from their family and out to the launch pad awaiting their vehicle. This is the back of one of them. And they always make a custom message for each of the Teslas that go out there to the launch. Sometimes it's one message on all of them. In this case, we have 3 words for each of the 3 Teslas. And as you can see there, one of them is launch. The next one, and the second one, you can see is live. And you have to reverse the order, right? You've heard of that phrase that you see on signs oftentimes, sometimes in people's homes. Live, laugh, love. Well, this today is live, laugh, launch. And you might ask, what have the other crews chosen? Well, we have the answer for you. What is in a name? The license plates have been branded going all the way back to the Demo 2 mission, which used the ISS bound for theirs. Crew 1 chose later Earth. Crew 2, reuse, reduce, recycle. Crew 3, send it. 4, go for launch. 5, blast off with the number 5 in it. Crew 6, Crew Dragon. Crew 7, bye. I think I did that long enough. There's 7 letters, by the way, bye in there, so
oh, okay.
make
Now
note
I
of
get
that. Jessica Meir, that was her mission. She pointed that out. Crew 8, yay space. Crew 9, I don't know who came up with this one, but ready for it?
Ready for it.
You were ready for it. That was your mission. Crew 10 was liftoff with a 10 in the middle. Live, laugh, launch. You were talking about the time that they're spending with their families, and they're about to do that now. And it ties in with what you were saying earlier. Human spaceflight is an important endeavor, exploration, so key to the fabric of this country. But it's risky.
It is. It is. You know, it's but it's not risk for the sake of risk. You know, so astronauts are not adrenaline junkies. We manage risk professionally, you know, and we make decisions. It's not just the astronauts too. It's, you know, all the way down from at the top, from program managers, the administrator, all the way down. It's the job of managing that risk because ultimately what we're trying to accomplish is worth it. If you didn't want to take any risk, you wouldn't get out of bed in the morning. And so the crew members are willing participants. The families, at least the spouse signed up for it. The kids may have been unwilling participants in all of this. And so it is, you know, it's a stressful time for the families to, you know, they're going to watch their loved one go and strap onto the top of a rocket. And you know, I gotta give kudos to NASA and its support infrastructure for how it takes care of the crew and their families in a time like this.
You talk about that, and just adding a little more detail there, astronauts come down from your office to be with the families during the lead up to launch. And so having the presence of those astronauts who have been there and done it is, I would imagine, pretty important for family members.
It is. You know, it's a familiar face. The astronaut office is pretty small. There's, you know, less than 50 of us. And so everybody knows everybody else. And so having that person that you can trust and lean on, from a crew member perspective, I'm going to hop in that Tesla there. I know that, you know, my buddy is there taking care of my family, and they're going to be there to help them through even a completely normal flight is going to be an emotional event, and they're there to provide that support. And it's not just the astronauts in the astronaut corps, but there's a whole team of support that NASA's put in place, the psychological support.
Approximately 15 minutes behind schedule. They have until T-minus 2 hours and 43 minutes per the green light time, so we have margin.
We finished the thought.
Yeah, and it's you know, it's that comprehensive. Oh, they're walking out now. Let's talk about that.
No, that's okay. There's Zena, Cardman, Mike Fincke, the commander and pilot, our 2 mission specialists, Kimiya Yui, Oleg Platonov, and into the elevator they go. From the 3rd floor down to the 1st, the banner behind them, framing them up with all of their photos, and in goes their team. They'll get ordered into the elevator, and the doors will close, and down they will go.
So if this was a 100-yard dash, they just left the blocks. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
You know, it's at that moment when you start walking down the hallway, now the train's starting to move.
So you really know, like, you're leaving the room, you're leaving where you lived, you're taking that journey out to the pad.
Bags are packed, ready to go.
I want to take you back to a moment where the crew got together and signed their mission patch. This is a tradition that has been going on for years now, since the resumption of the crew flights from American soil. Each crew member, there's Zena Cardman, our commander, signing the patch. Mike Fincke as well. You signed this patch, Nick, for Crew 9.
Yeah, just above there, so you can see the Crew 9 patch. Oh, he's going.
I like that.
Oleg's got a great sense of humor.
That's what Mike Fincke said about Oleg. He says he's even funnier than he is, which I guess Mike thinks quite highly of his own sense of humor. I know I've laughed when I've been around him because he's a funny guy.
He is quite funny. And, you know, so you can see all those patches on around the door. There should be a Crew 11 patch around there as well.
Yeah.
Gotta have good eyes to see that, though. That's an eye chart.
Yeah, it's an eye chart test. This, of course, another place where crews put their patches before they go out. That area around the door and the framing, you know, was replaced at one point in time. But every crew that has launched from crew quarters going back to Apollo has put a patch and a sticker up on that frame, at least going back to where they changed it. The ride from this location will be provided with a security escort, so there will be no interruptions on their journey out to the launch pad, as it should be here at America's Spaceport. As they drive out to their destination, which you see
Core
there.
Countdown. Side hatch is opened. This is approximately 15 minutes behind schedule. We still have margin to our T-minus 2 hours, 38-minute green light time.
And there you hear an update from the launch director at SpaceX and informing us that they're behind schedule out at the pad, but they've got margin.
Yeah, margin's important. You know, you see the clock there, 3 hours and 20 minutes, counting down to the seconds. The way you've got to launch into space, you've got to make sure that the orbit of the station is overhead when you launch, and so it has to be timed down to the second.
And here they are, Crew 11, walking outside for the final time before launch and into a mission years in the making.
Core on countdown. Crew walkout is underway on schedule.
Commander Zena Cardman, pilot Michael Fincke, JAXA astronaut Kimiya Yui, and Roscosmos' Oleg Platonov. I see some Crew 11 shirts down there. And that's Zena Cardman that we see on the left, Mike Fincke on the right. And I've seen Zena do that a number of times, making the heart symbol with her hands. Certainly sending her love to her family who have supported her.
Yeah, you don't get there on your own. None of these individuals have gotten there on their own. It takes the support and love of family and friends and colleagues, and it's a team sport.
You see Mike Fincke on the right there, the pilot. He is flying. He is flying along in his kit a Gamasa, which he is, he tells us his wife is of Indian origin, and the Gamasa is used in the state of Assam as kind of a scarf, and so he's taking that with him. He's taken a scarf from his side of the family. That side of the family for all 4 of his flights. A token, certainly, of their blessing on this flight today, but also has sentimental purposes.
Yeah, little bits and pieces of home that we can take along with us. And you know, I mentioned that we're big into traditions and rituals and superstitions, and you'll find that lots of crew members have their little token of good luck. You can see them connecting to that cooling air. They've been off of it for a few minutes now, and so a little warm in the Florida air. Last goodbyes as the doors come down, and then immediate family will be able to come up to the windows after they crack them.
Yep, they're going to roll those windows down a little bit and give some last words before launch and before they depart the operations and checkout building. Inside Zena's Tesla there, she'll have the flight surgeon going with her.
Yeah, and you can see the lengths we go to preserve that quarantine. You know, you wait till they maintain their distance when they were outside the cars. Once they get inside the cars, there's still some distance. All the personnel that are in the cars with them have also been in quarantine this entire time. So it's not just the crew members that are in quarantine for a couple weeks. It's a group of several dozen people that have to quarantine.
I want to point out Secretary Sean Duffy is here. He is NASA's acting administrator. Also, Secretary of Transportation here supporting the launch today and the crew there at the walkout. He's the gentleman with the glasses and the blue suit coat, which I think is second from the right. There he is. A shot over his shoulder. He just took the reins of NASA just a few weeks ago. He's doing so on an acting basis until an administrator can be nominated and then confirmed by Congress. A look inside the window, Zena Cardman giving some waves. And I imagine emotions must be running high.
How can they not? You've been waiting for this moment for a long time, and now you've said your goodbyes. It's tough to say goodbye to family that you're not going to see for a while, but you're also excited to get that car rolling and get on with it. And
indeed, they are off. Crew 11 on the road to launchpad 39A. The Teslas are rolling out from the Neil Armstrong building, escorted by security for the 20-minute drive.
Lyoseals are removed and installation is complete. This is about 10 minutes behind schedule. Again, we have plenty of margin to our green light time. Team is making up time.
Well, that's a good call out there. We were running 15 minutes behind, but as you heard from the launch director, they have made up 5 minutes, now currently only 10 minutes behind schedule, but they do have margin, so there is the team and the launch team will continue to work this, and the flight crew right now headed out to the pad. Their next stop, a rocket, waiting to launch them into orbit. No pressure, just your average commute today, Nick.
It's not your average commute. You got this police escort with helicopter support, and you get to run every red light and run every stop sign.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful sight there. Of course, I say that in jest. This is a very special road trip from the astronaut crew quarters out to the launch pad, where they will join up with their spacecraft and rocket. We want to learn about this crew. We want to share their story in their own words. So let's hear from the commander of Crew 11, Zena Cardman, as she shares her path from field science to spaceflight.
I think in a lot of ways, science and exploration is just innate to us as human beings. That's why toddlers ask so many why questions. It's just part of who we are. In many ways, I think trying to explore space generates solutions to problems that we didn't even know we had.
My name is Zena Cardman, and I am the commander of NASA's SpaceX Crew 11 mission to the International Space Station.
I was born in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, but grew up in Williamsburg, Virginia. I grew up almost like an only child. I have two older brothers, but the younger of the two actually went off to college when I was 5 years old. And so I learned to play in my backyard a lot, play with friends, use my imagination, and explore the natural world around me. I studied biology as an undergraduate student. This is largely because I had a really excellent high school biology teacher who inspired me to pursue research on my own, even as a high school student. But while I was at college, I also got to know microbiology. I got to know geosciences and chemistry. I wound up doing a lot of research in an oceanography marine sciences department and studying in remote locations like Antarctica. I also, while I was an undergraduate, became a creative writing minor, and I've always really valued that chance to study the creative side of my brain and explore our natural world through that side as well. I love being an astronaut right now because there are many pathways to get to the International Space Station. We spend long duration periods, so many months long, living and working on board that space station, and it's really focused on research. A lot of that research is on our home planet, and a lot of that research is on us as human subjects. I'm very excited to be actually a test subject for a lot of the medical research that we're doing on board the ISS. I've signed up for a very large, all-encompassing medical study called CIPHER, and this, I think, is going to be critical as we start thinking about going for longer durations and farther places like the Moon and Mars. My role as commander is to bring out the best in my crewmates from the moment we start training till the moment we get back to Earth and then some. And so I'm always thinking about that larger mission overview and how my crewmates are doing and what we can do for each other. Spaceflight, by definition, requires collaboration and requires more than one person, and the chance to be part of something much larger than myself has been humbling and inspiring and deeply fulfilling. Even since I was a child, looking up at the stars, looking up at the cosmos is inspiring. It helps me answer questions like, what are we doing here? Who are we? Where are we? I don't think we grow if we don't challenge ourselves. I think that's true for myself, it's true for teams, and it's true for us as a society and as a species. We have to take some risks, we have to challenge ourselves in order to push ourselves, and I can't wait to see what we discover during my career and for generations to come.
The very capable and talented Zena Cardman, the commander of Crew 11. Next up, astronaut Michael Fincke, a veteran of 3 missions and 4 spacewalks, as he reflects on what keeps him coming back to space.
Human beings, part of our nature, part of who we are, our identity is explorers. Because every time we explore, we improve our lives and our situations. It's just natural. My name is Mike Fincke, and I'm the pilot for NASA's SpaceX Crew 11 mission to the International Space Station. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, home of the mighty Steelers, and it was a great time to grow up, lots of great educational opportunities, a time that was tough economically, but a place where we knew that dreams could come true. When I was like 2 and 3 years old, my parents would wake me up from whatever nap I was taking to watch moon landings. We did many moon landings back in the late 60s and early 70s, and that made a big impression on me. So I knew that back then, even when I was like 3, that I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to go walk on the moon. I wanted to go explore space. So I learned to read so I could read more about space, and the more I read, the more excited I became. When I was in high school, I didn't know what engineering was. I knew what math and science were, physics. I was kind of good at that. Math. I took a leap of faith and went to an engineering program at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. Thankfully paid for by an Air Force ROTC scholarship, and then hustling with side gigs on the weekends. And I got to study airplanes and rockets, 2 of my favorite things. So I was able to graduate from MIT with 2 degrees, and then the summer after graduation, I had a really wonderful opportunity to study in Soviet Union. Fortunately, I'd studied Russian language, so I knew enough Russian to go with some colleagues, and we spent the summer at Moscow Aviation Institute studying cosmonautics. And then I spent the next year at Stanford University getting a master's in aeronautics and astronautics. I love the space station. I helped build it. I helped the first modules get ready here on planet Earth, and have had the joy of living aboard the space station for 2 long-duration missions so far. We've learned from the International Space Station that space is a great place to really understand more about the universe. When we are aboard the International Space Station, we're still gravitationally connected to planet Earth, but we're free-falling, so like we're in microgravity. So you take that big G out of the equation, and then you can find out what's really going on physically. We're also outside the atmosphere, so we can look to the universe beyond us without atmospheric interference. When I'm on a spacewalk, I can look out to the whole universe, and I can see how small our planet is and how big and wonderful the rest of the universe is. And it's calling to us. We need to explore and go see the whole universe that's out there. Space exploration is something that really speaks to me as a person, right? We all kind of have our passions. And for me, since I was like 2 or 3 years old, I wanted to go to space, explore space. And I've had a chance to do that. Half my life I've been an astronaut. I've really, really enjoyed exploring space.
Pilot Mike Fincke and his team, as you just saw them pass the vehicle assembly building where Artemis II, a moon rocket, is being stacked. Let's hear now from JAXA astronaut Kimiya Yui on returning to the station, representing Japan, and what this mission means to him.
I think humankind has a desire to explore and also expand our area of activities. Space is a great place to explore because Earth is so small. We still have unknown places, but Earth is, generally speaking, so small compared with space. My name is Kimiya Yui. I'm a mission specialist for NASA's SpaceX Crew 11 mission to the International Space Station. I was born in very, very small village in Nagano Prefecture. So up there, I was able to see very, very beautiful stars in night skies. When I was a little boy, I did stargazing, and I loved stars. I really want to know everything on our universe, and I want to go everywhere as long as I live. When I was already like 10 years old, I already wanted to become an astronaut or astronaut. I graduated from the National Defense Academy, and after that I entered Japanese Air Force, Japan Air Self-Defense Force, then become a fighter pilot, then a test pilot, and then became an astronaut. We do science in space because we have constant microgravity in the ISS. We cannot achieve that condition on the Earth. Space station actually contributing our knowledge, and also we can produce new materials or medicines in order to make our future brighter. Going to Moon or Mars is very difficult, so we need to test our materials, and ISS is a great test bed. So Crew 11, we are going to have a lot of experiments on ISS, and JAXA especially, we are going to have a new cargo vehicle, HTV-X. The vehicle itself is a little bit lighter, but we can carry more stuff to the ISS. 10 years ago, I went to space for the first time. It's changed a lot. And for astronauts, it became much more convenient to live. For example, we didn't have a good place for cooking. Now we have gallery. I was able to see a lot of stars and also beautiful Earth or moons. This mission inspired me, and I really want to pass that actually inspiration to other people on the ground. ISS is one of the best examples to have a dream and work together and make the dream come true. So if you see ISS in the night sky, please think about your dream, about how to make your dream come true.
And finally, Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Platonov, sharing his thoughts as he prepares for his very first flight to space.
Бесконечный космос открывает бесконечные возможности для человечества, поэтому есть необходимость осваивать Солнечную систему, осваивать просторы за пределами Солнечной системы. А для того, чтобы это сделать в будущем, мы должны закладывать эту базу. My name is Oleg Platonov, and I am a mission specialist for NASA's SpaceX Crew 11 mission to the International Space Station. Я родился в большом индустриальном городе в России, в городе Челябинске. Это моя родина. Я занимался в патриотических кружках, связанных с авиацией и космонавтикой, поэтому уже в мое детство я задумывался о космосе. У меня много целей в этом полете. Прежде всего, я хочу полететь на мощной огромной ракете в космос, долететь до Международной космической станции, сесть возле большого иллюминатора на станции, посмотреть на нашу красавицу Землю, и это будет вдохновлять меня работать все лучше и лучше. Мы можем получать новые данные о нашей Земле, о Солнечной системе, о космических лучах, о нашей Вселенной, о жизни микроорганизмов в космосе, о здоровье человека, о получении новых лекарств, о путях улучшения конструктивных материалов и внутренняя потребность человека исследовать все, что находится вокруг него. Хочется узнать все новое, новое и новое, расширяя горизонты своего знания, что границы открыты, что мы можем летать в космос, что мы можем лететь дальше, все дальше и дальше, за пределы нашей Земли, за пределы Солнечной системы. И это будет вдохновлять уже не только нас, но и следующие поколения.
And those are all 4 members of Crew 11. If you're just joining us, we are currently T-minus 3 hours and 1 minute until liftoff of those 4 individuals who make up Crew 11. Liftoff to the International Space Station. And this is their ride, a Falcon 9 rocket with a spacecraft called Endeavour sitting at the very top. That crew walkway that you see connecting the launch tower and the rocket, astronauts will soon be walking across that walkway and into their spacecraft to get strapped in to go to space. Right now, they just arrived at the base of the pad, and here is a beautiful view of Launch Pad 39A, which sits just 500, 600 feet away from the edge of the Atlantic Ocean, the beach there, which, as you can see from the calm state of the ocean, we have very light winds, we have sunshine, we have a beautiful day for launch. 90% go is what our launch weather officer is reporting out for weather conditions at the time of liftoff. That time, 12:09 and 24 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. As we gaze up at the sky, seeing just some very thin cirrus clouds up ahead, those not a problem at all when we get ready to launch. We're green across the board right now, running just a little bit behind on the procedures out at the pad. At last check, about 10 minutes, but SpaceX crews are working diligently to catch that time up. And this mission operation timeline, it should be noted, has plenty of margin in it. What you're about to see now is the astronauts walking up to their rocket to get a look at the 1.8 million pounds of thrust that can be generated by this machine as it takes them up into space. That moment coming up in just a few minutes, Nick.
Yeah, they just pulled up to the launch pad. We've got about 3 hours until liftoff, and so this is your last bathroom break before you're strapped into a seat and hostage for the next 3 hours. So much needed respite, and then but it's once you ride that elevator up to the top, it's just this stark contrast. You see your rocket up close and personal, and it's this amazing feat of engineering. And then the backdrop is the beautiful Florida coast and the waves crashing onto the beach and a breeze in the face. And it's just a spectacular moment once you get to the top of the launch tower.
You painted quite a word picture there, and we are about to see what that looks like through the eyes of the astronauts as we document their journey up the launch tower, across the walkway, and into their capsule. In the meantime, we want to take some questions that we've been asking and getting and receiving from our audience that's watching around the world. Those who have put their questions forth to our astronaut co-host, Nick Hague, a brigadier general with the Space Force and a NASA astronaut. Austin asks, my son, Knox, age 8, would like to know, how do you get to the space station when it orbits around the Earth so fast? And that is fast.
Countdown, advanced team have completed their preps for crew arrival, and crew are heading up the tower on schedule.
That's great news. Sounds like they made up all of that 10 minutes that they were behind. That's a great call out. Yes, station goes 17,500 miles per hour. How are you going to catch up with that?
Yeah, so Knox has got it. He's got his finger right on it. You've got to start going that fast. So the rocket's going to take off going vertical, and it's accelerating. But after a few minutes into flight, the rocket pitches over and is basically going horizontal and continuing to accelerate as it falls back down toward the Earth. And so you're turning all of that fuel, the 1.8 million pounds of thrust that you were talking about, you're turning all of that into velocity. So right now they're going 0 miles per hour. After 9 minutes of lighting that rocket, you're going to be going 17,500 miles per hour. And it's timing. So that's why we're counting down 2 hours and 56 minutes to liftoff to the second, because that's when the Earth rotates underneath the International Space Station's orbital plane, and then that's the moment that we have to take off. So it's an instantaneous launch window.
And that instantaneous launch window at exactly 12:09 and 24 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. You talk about catching up to the ISS. The day that we have and the time gets them there because we are in the same orbital plane. Our first two astronauts clear from the bio break. Zena Cardman, Mike Fincke walking out and getting a look at their rocket, arm in arm.
It's a tall rocket, so it's hard to actually look up that. So you've got to lean back to be able to really see it.
You know what? It looks like Mike Fincke, who's on the right-hand side, has a little more lean. What's interesting about him is he's wearing an upgraded suit called an R2. The Zena, let's go, just circling her arms. Let's just go.
Yeah.
But he's wearing an upgraded suit that SpaceX says has more mobility and more flexibility in it.
Well, he just demonstrated that.
Well,
I
he
guess.
sure did, didn't he?
Oh, no, Zena wasn't going to be outdone. No, it's awesome to see them, the excitement, the emotions that you feel as you're getting ready to do something like launch into space. Astronauts are humans. They feel all those same emotions, and so it's fun to see some of the excitement come out and on display.
Spillover right there on the launch pad, because there will be time for things to get serious once they get into the cabin. We turn on the launch escape system and start flowing propellants. But right now, just like you said, a nice moment at the base of the launch pad where those emotions spill out. But talking about the suit, Mike Fincke is the only one who is wearing, you can contrast his suit with Zena's. It looks exactly the same, but it's constructed differently. It has a circumferential zipper as opposed to a vertical zipper. So as you know, you got into your spacesuit like a onesie. His spacesuit has been upgraded and redesigned and has that circular zipper that allows 7 inches of flexibility in the suit, so you can adapt it to different body sizes. Whereas the suit that you wore and that Zena is wearing and the rest of the crew has to be tailor-made, and there's not much adjustment on those.
Yeah, and it's also a demanding engineering challenge because it has to be mobile when it's unpressurized, but then when you inflate this, you also have to create a volume where you can be inside of this rigidized suit and be in there comfortably for hours if need be. And so that's a challenge to get a suit that does that. And so this next generation of suit is designed to be able to accommodate that wider range a little easier.
It'll be good for the astronauts, more comfortable, more flexible, especially, as you mentioned, when you pressurize it, which I guess it's like a giant, just human-sized balloon. This is a great shot from our flight operations team here at Kennedy. You can see the two crew members, somewhat small, getting ready to enter the crew access arm. And here they come, Commander Zena Cardman and pilot Mike Fincke, getting ready to board Dragon Endeavour. And they are all smiles.
Ear-to-ear grins. It's awesome to see.
And what a beautiful vista behind them as you look out at the views of the spaceport. Mike just gave us the two guns. He's a character. Now, before they get into the spacecraft, some important business at hand here, wanting to make sure that no FOD or foreign object debris goes into the spacecraft. So the two suit technicians and the closeout crew there, making sure that they take care of that, as well as this tradition right here, Nick.
Yeah. Got to sign that wall. That means you're going. And so every crew that's launched off of commercial Crew Dragon launched off of 39A has been able to sign around that NASA meatball. And it's little moments like that that connect you with the legacy of the program and make you feel connected in a way where you understand, hey, I'm taking the next step, and it's an important step. There's a lot of people that got me to the point where I can take this step, and hopefully there's a lot of people coming after me that are going to continue to take steps.
Countdown. Crew are in the white room, and this is on schedule.
You'll hear these audio call-outs from time to time from the crew operations and resource engineer with updates, and we'll pause to listen to them. Here are the two mission specialists now doing their rocket recline, looking up at their ride.
I think they studied technique from Zena and Mike because they had it down.
Seemed like kind of like a rock and roll kind of pose, didn't it? They will be riding the other elevator. This, of course, is Heritage Space Shuttle equipment. Those elevators, they used to just have numbers in them. And they're headed up to the 275-foot level, so 28 stories high are the crew on the left, all the way up at the top. The crew at the bottom now getting ready to ascend that distance. SpaceX changed the buttons inside a little while ago to have the top button for 275 say Space. Yeah. Did you punch it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty cool. I would like to go to space. Can you press space for it? Did your fellow crew member say, can space please? Can you press that button for me?
Make everybody wait uncomfortably long.
That is something you would do.
Maybe.
So Mike carefully getting into the spacecraft here, which that takes a bit of physical effort, right? You don't want to touch that seal because that is what protects you from the hostile environment of space.
Yeah, absolutely. That side hatch is going to stay closed the entire time you're in space. The next time you're going to open that is when you're bobbing around in the Pacific, and the recovery teams open it up to get you out.
And
of course, we're going to do leak checks on that here in a little bit, and it's important to be able to pass that. So you're hyper vigilant about hardware, and you mentioned that transition to seriousness as you're walking out that gantry. That's when you start to build and flip that switch in your mind of, okay, this is spaceflight hardware. This is the equipment that's going to keep me alive. You become that hyper vigilant person that you need to be.
Last two crew members there, the mission specialists, walking down the crew access arm. And the final two crew members mission specialists Oleg Platonov and Kimiya Yui, arm in arm, thumbs up, ready to go. Split screen there, looking outside and inside the White Room. You mentioned the mission. This crew is leaving the ground with a baseline of at least 6 months, half a year in space, ladies and gentlemen. But they are being considered, and research and study and certification process is underway to expand this to an 8-month increment, 2 months longer. And so the plan is for the commercial crew program, which is here at NASA, is to certify the spacecraft Dragon to be able to support them for a return 8 months later. We know they can live on station for 8 months. We've had astronauts live there for a year. But that is a long-duration space flight. And so the hope is that they certify them for 8 months and they can return 8 months later, hoping to get it by October.
Yeah, you know, it's a 6th flight of Endeavour, and there's a lot of things that need to be looked into. From a crew perspective, you know, the mindset has to be, I'm going for 8 months. And then if it ends up not turning out that way, then that's I guess a pleasant surprise, or unfortunate, depending on your perspective at the moment, because every day in space is a gift. No, it'll be exciting for them. And like you said, we've had people up there. You know, one of my crew members, Christina Cook, was up there a year. She launched with me on MS-12. So we know how to do it, and we know how to keep people healthy when they stay up there that long. It really comes down to expectations and expectation management with crew members as well as families, as well as the entire team that has to support this particular mission, because it's not just the crew and their families, but that entire support network is on call while they're on orbit.
That's an interesting point to think about. I hadn't thought about just how that kind of puts the family, as you mentioned, on call as that entire time. They have the moments where they get to connect with you via video phone and high-speed connection, but as long as you're up there, that they know that you're not here on Earth. You're in space, and you and your crew are being supported by this international laboratory, which has been doing it for 25 years come November 2nd. You're watching live launch coverage of NASA and SpaceX's Crew 11 launch to the International Space Station. I'm Daryl Nail, and I'm joined by NASA astronaut and Brigadier General Nick Hague. We've counted down about an hour and 20 minutes so far, and we're cruising to liftoff. T-minus 2 hours and 44 minutes. T0 is 12:09 p.m. Eastern Time. A look at the signatures on the wall inside the White Room. And I would love to see if we can make out my co-host's signature there.
You
Nick
won't.
Hague?
You won't.
No?
I launched off Slick 40 over at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station.
Indeed you did.
Yeah, so there's 2 lonely signatures over there on Space Launch Complex 40 right now.
That's right, and that was a late change, and my apologies for that, because you were initially supposed to launch off of 39A.
Yes, it was. We were the first to launch off. We were actually the first humans to launch off of that launch complex. The certification process, you mentioned the certification process for extending the life of Endeavour. Same kind of thing happens for the ground station as the launch complexes, and they were able to get that process done. in time to support us to be able to launch off there. So it was a thrill to be able to, be a member of the Space Force and launch off of a Space Force launch complex.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And you're the only two signatures there.
Yeah. Well,
So,
hopefully
I mean,
we can
that's
fix that. Hopefully we can fix that.
Yes, absolutely. SpaceX has 2 launch pads here that are human rated for spaceflight, and that gives them great redundancy, great capability as well for NASA to have access to. Right now, the teams are working in parallel. The crew members inside Dragon getting settled into their seats that they will ride up into space, while outside the closeout crew handles the matter of making sure that the seal's integrity around the side hatch is maintained. And then once they get them all settled and finish up their work inside with the crew, they'll depart. You can see number 22 still inside. The support crew will come out of the capsule, and they'll shut that hatch that you see right there, that side hatch. As Nick mentioned, when that is shut and they've secured it, they will leak test it to make sure it can withstand the rigors of the harsh environments of space. But in order to see and communicate with the crew that's inside, both of the closeout crew members here taking a knee.
Yeah, you can see a couple of the ninjas inside. They're, principally getting everybody strapped in nice and snug. Then they're also providing them with some of their personal equipment. You see the white satchels that they'll wear on their thigh. It's a place to put their tablet, as well as some writing utensils and some other things that they may need in terms of personal gear. And make sure everything's situated, because once you're strapped in, they don't want you coming out of those straps until you're floating around.
Certainly want all that in order and in place for the very exciting ride up into space, but it's also going to be a long one, Nick. This is a 38.8-hour phasing, which means from the time that they lift off to the time that they dock to the International Space Station, almost 40 hours in space. This is the longest ride to space so far for NASA's commercial crew program, flying the Dragon, which we are now in our 12th flight, Crew 11, the 11th operational mission, but we have to include Demo 2, which was the first test flight.
Yeah, 40 hours is a long time. So it only takes, less than 10 minutes to get to space. And then, this gets back to the question before of how do you catch up to the space station? Well, we phasing is the word that we use, but essentially in different orbital altitudes you move different speeds, and so we adjust the orbital altitude of the Dragon capsule to allow it to catch up to the space station, and in this case it's going to take 40 hours to do. Most of that time, a few minutes after they have arrived on orbit, they're going to be able to take their spacesuits off, and then essentially you're camping out inside the Dragon capsule, waiting for those 40 hours to elapse so that you can dock and open the hatch and get to work.
That's astronaut Nick Hague, commander of Crew 9, flew just a couple missions ago for NASA. Also flew...
SpaceX Dragon, ready for com checks.
SpaceX copies, we are good. So, seat 1, seat 2, seat 3, seat 4, comm check.
Seat 1, loud and clear.
2, loud and clear.
3, loud and clear. Seat 4, loud and clear.
Core, loud and clear. Umbilical comm check complete. Report when ready for seat rotation.
So you just heard from each one of the crew members on board as they went through all of their communications with the Crew Operations and Resource Force engineer, otherwise known as the Core. You heard him communicating with each one of the crew members just now. As I was mentioning, Nick Hague flew 2 Soyuzes to space. The first one didn't make it to station, was an in-flight abort, came back down to the ground. You flew again the second time. On MS-12, you did make it to station. We are getting ready to do the suit leak checks, but first, we want to take some social questions as we go along. Nick Hague is our astronaut expert at the ready. If you want to submit a question, please do. We would love to hear from you. Just use hashtag AskNASA on the platforms that we have on Facebook, X, YouTube, and Twitch. And we have a question in on the lower right hand of your screen. Yes, Benny asks, what was the hardest part in becoming an astronaut?
You know, I think that's a different answer depending on which astronaut you ask. There's so many things that we have to train to be able to do, whether that's, you know, operate high-performance jets, aircraft, spacecraft, or learn the engineering behind all the systems on board of those that keep us alive, to the medical support that you might need to be able to provide because you need to be the doctor for the crew. But I think for me, the single most challenging aspect was learning a second language at the age of 38. And, you know, getting selected, and the first day on the job, I started my Russian language training because to be on board the space station, you have to be able to speak English and Russian.
It's a requirement.
Regardless of where you come from. So, you know, Kimiya, native Japanese, but he has to be able to speak English and Russian.
Right.
And so it's amazing how difficult it is if you didn't grow up learning a second language very young, how hard it is to rewire your brain late in
Dragon,
life.
ready for seat rotation.
Copy, ready for seat rotation. All other teams are ready, so we will be initiating seat rotation now.
Copy.
And so you're about to see those seats articulate upwards. This is their entry position, but they will now be articulated into launch position so that they are resting on their backs and able to see those screens just above them, just above the heads of the pilot and commander. You can see Zena Cardman currently touching some of the buttons in the screen on just ahead of her, the heads-up display. And there they go. Getting some waves from the camera person who is on the launch tower right before they back out and shut the hatch. Boots up.
Yep, that position is important, because when you're launching, you want to make sure that that G-force is coming through your chest, because it's easier for your body to handle. But then when you're landing and the impact of landing, you want to make sure that you're in that more upright orientation. It's all for crew safety. It does allow them to see the displays better.
Dragon SpaceX, seats are in the launch position. With that, you are go for Section 2, suit leak check preparation.
And now that they can see those displays better, they can start operating them. And so Zena's going to step through suit leak checks here with the rest of the crew.
I did not know that they articulated them down for re-entry.
Yeah, after the main chute's open, then they will they rotate down.
How about that?
Actually, it's once you come back through a certain G level on re-entry, that's the trigger, and then they rotate, and then you
automatically come down?
Yeah, you get chutes and everything else.
Now that we have Crew 11 seated inside of the spacecraft, we want to go back and and hear the story of your first space flight, Nick, which was, to say the least, an adventurous one. One that did not end with you getting to the International Space Station, but rather an in-flight abort. This helps us underscore just how important safety is in this moment as the astronauts prepare. So here you are, a number of years ago, getting ready to launch for MS-10, giving a wave goodbye. Talk me through your first space flight.
Yeah, you know, when I look at this picture, it almost snaps me straight back. It's a beautiful fall day in the steppes of Kazakhstan. You know, we're on, you know, the same launch pad there that Yuri Gagarin launched into space on. And so you feel that deep connection, that legacy I talked about, the human exploration of space. And so we're getting ready to walk up to the elevator. There's a few stairs. It's a turn back photo op and wave to the management that's taken you all the way up to the base of the rocket that's sitting there, that's white with frost because it's full of rocket fuel at that point, and you're on your way. So I mean, it's everything you dream of. It's at that point I've spent 40 plus years dreaming about that day happening, and then liftoff.
And
Copy, tear complete. You have a go for Section 3 suit leak check.
so as we listen in, the suit leak checks,
Go for Section 3.
they will pressurize the suits of the crew inside the cabin. Very important matter. As you're lifting off here, what are you feeling?
You know, in many respects, the feeling of the Soyuz lifting off the launch pad is very similar to Dragon. The rockets are about the same size. You feel just kind of this slowly increasing pressure of being pushed down into your seat. The rumble and the kind of the subtle vibration as you're going, but it's pretty smooth. You know, I'd liken it to being in an electric car and somebody just kind of smashing the accelerator, pushing you into your seat, and you're off. And it was, you know, a smooth ride for the first 2 minutes leading up to the point where those external boosters you see on the base of the rocket are empty, and then they need to separate from the rocket.
And that's what led to this moment right here, Nick, when those boosters didn't do quite what they were supposed to.
Yeah, one of them didn't. They're supposed to propel themselves away from the center, the core stage. One of them that didn't do that and actually impaled the core stage, caused it to essentially disintegrate in that split second. So we're 30 miles above the Earth, going 4,000 miles an hour, kind of pointed straight up. As that happens, it tilts us a little bit, and in that second in which all that occurs, the launch escape system pulls us, my crewmate Alexei Ovchinin, the commander on the mission, and I, to safety.
And that shot is the shot before. If we look back to that one, it's blurry because that's a screenshot from just how violently things were shaking.
Yeah,
inside.
there was in that instant, you know, the indications to us are a flashing red light, you know, an alarm's going off, and then there's a little red indicator that says there's a rocket emergency, and then you're also being shaken kind of side to side for a second or so. And then it's peaceful, because at that point we're going so fast, we've come off, we're just kind of coasting uphill in this slow tumble to the edge of space. And I can remember looking out as we got to the top of that trajectory and seeing the dark black of space and the curve of the Earth below, and thinking to myself, well, we're not going to get there today.
Just not going to make it.
Yeah. And so, you know, in the moment, you have those little moments where the reality of the situation pops out. Now it's, you know, it starts to set in, okay, what do I need to do to survive? And that's get back into the procedures.
Right. And so that view we saw from looking up in the sky, your rocket is coming apart. You no longer can ride that into space. It's done. Now you're on the emergency systems. And you come down back to Earth. And that's you on the right, in the middle, right middle, hugging your wife.
Yeah.
And that looks like quite the deep embrace.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's in the moment when you're responding, the training kicks in. You're able to compartmentalize all of the emotion of the situation. It's in the aftermath of that. You know, that's less than 6 hours after we had launched that we're back at the aerodrome there, and that's when the emotions, you know, that's, you're human. That's when it comes out, and you know, Katie had witnessed all of that and gone through that roller coaster ride at the same time, along with my kids and my family that were all there, with less information than I had, because I was going through it. There was, you know, probably 20 minutes where she didn't know
Dragon
what the
for
outcome
nominal
was.
seats.
Dragon, we see the same. Closeout team will perform final closeout steps and then exit the capsule. You can proceed to Section 4, side hatch close, and report when ready to close hatch.
And just a quick note.
Copies. Proceeding Section 4. Wilco.
We are still tracking the operations inside the Dragon Endeavour that you see there. They are doing checkouts of the suits, pressurizing them, getting ready for launch. As we listen to a very important story that Nick Hague just told us about surviving an in-flight anomaly where his rocket came apart, but the launch escape system for Soyuz saved his life and the life of his crewmate and brought them back to their families.
Yeah, you know, the way you phrase that's important. The launch escape system. The engineers that developed the escape system, the people in the factory that assembled it, all of these people that I don't get to meet or would not normally get to meet. The space program, the human exploration of space, is built on trust. Trust in that everybody who's got a job is committed to being perfect in that job. And it's not just the crew that rides on top of the capsule, but it's everybody. And you never know when your decision, your responsibility, your action is going to be the one that saves the day.
Absolutely, and that's why you often hear so many times the engineers uttering how important it is to get the job right, to do it right, to make sure everything is ready for launch. And this crew has their launch escape system. We will go through their checks, we'll check the health of it, and we'll also arm it for launch.
Dragon, SpaceX, comm check.
SpaceX Dragon, loud and clear.
Core has you loud and clear. Teacher's comm check is complete. Stand by for comm checks with DC, MD, and LD in the launch configuration.
Dragon, DC on countdown 1, comm check.
DC Dragon, loud and clear.
DC loud and clear. Stand by for comm checks with MD.
Dragon, MD on countdown 1, comm check.
MD Dragon, loud and clear.
MD loud and clear as well. Stand by for comm check over Dragon to ground.
You're listening to communication
Dragon,
checks
MD on Dragon to ground, comm check.
through each of the 3 paths to this spacecraft.
MD Dragon, loud and clear.
MD loud and clear. Stand by for comm checks with LD.
Dragon, LD on countdown 1 with a comm check.
LD Dragon, loud and clear.
LD loud and clear. Stand by for comm check on Dragon to ground. Dragon, LD, Dragon to ground, comm check.
LD Dragon, loud and clear.
LD loud and clear.
Dragon, SpaceX, launch configuration comm checks are complete.
Dragon copies, and crew are ready for side hatch closure.
Copy, crew readiness for side hatch closure. Closeout team is taking final steps in prep for that closure, so stand by for that in a few minutes. The vehicle will then transition to pad hatch closed. Ensure all items are secure from now through launch.
Dragon copies, Wilco.
Those communication checks, Nick, were really important for each of the crew members to be able to speak to some very important members of the launch team.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got the comm checks you've been hearing with Core, which is really the voice from the SpaceX control room to Dragon. But you've also got the launch director, the mission director in there as well. And then it gets more complex because you're checking multiple different ways that you're going to be able to get the communications there, whether going direct from ground to Dragon or whether using the TDRS relay satellites. So communications critical, being able to verbally talk, but then the other connection that you can't forget about is the telemetry and the vehicle communication down to the ground. Dragon is a highly autonomous vehicle and has a pretty close couple with mission control on the ground to be able to monitor all of that automation.
You're watching launch coverage of NASA and SpaceX's Crew 11 mission to the International Space Station. Nick Hague, our astronaut co-host today, walking you through the operations, just told a very powerful and moving story about his first launch, which ended with a flight abort, but brought him and his crew members safely to the ground, back to his family. He launched again on MS-12, but that story brought forth a question on social that we want to take now. We're taking your questions live and bringing them to Nick, who's answering them as we go. So Oscar asks, Nick, you're one of the very few people in history who have ever aborted in flight. How did it feel as it happened?
Yeah. We spend so much time training for what to do when things go wrong. I'd venture that we spend about 95% of our training focused on what to do in the event that something goes wrong. And so the situation of the abort is one that Alexei and I performed in the simulator about 8 months before we launched and experienced it. And so there's the one time in the sim. It's a very short simulation. The actual flight was less than 20 minutes. The simulation's less than 20 minutes. But we had run those procedures. And the sum total of all of that training is that you get very disciplined at running procedures because you know that those procedures are the things that are going to keep you safe when things don't go right. So in the moment, there is the oh boy moment when it's happening. The alarm's going off, the lights flashing, everything's kind of shaking, and it takes you a second or two to fully process exactly what's happening. And then there's I had the realization that, if this was going to be a really bad day, it would have happened, so I've got a chance. So the best way to protect Alexei and I is for both of us to do our procedures and focus on those. And so you compartmentalize all of those emotions. You kind of set those to the side and you focus on doing your job. And so we run through the procedures and we talk with Mission Control in Moscow and surprisingly, I spent so much time in Star City training. That Russian that I was talking about being painful to learn, that is just naturally coming out because all of our communications are in Russian. And then it's not until you touch the ground, the search and rescue forces come and extract you. They were there within like 10 minutes. They come and extract us and pull us out under the parachutes. It's at that moment when your body can relax, you can stop focusing on all the things you need to do to be safe because you know you're safe, and then that's when shock kind of rolls over you. And your body just tries to process everything that happened. We're human. You can't bottle that stuff up forever. And so it was you could hear the waver in my voice when I called Katie and on the satellite phone and said, hey, I'm okay. I actually had to leave a voicemail because she had her phone off.
Oh no.
But we have that voicemail, and I've been able to listen to it, and it's pretty amazing.
Wow. Thank you, Oscar, so much for that question. And thank you, Nick, for that beautiful answer. We are continuing to document Crew 11's steps through their mission operational timelines, getting ready for launch. You saw this closeout crew remove a protective cover around the seal. Now they are examining that seal and documenting, taking pictures of it, because once they shut that door, it needs to be as airtight as they can possibly get it, since you're going into the vacuum of space and it needs to protect all 4 crew members inside.
Yeah, it doesn't. A single strand of hair across the seal can be enough to cause it to fail the leak check. So it's got to be completely pristine. It's got to be pristine.
And we've had that happen in previous missions where exactly just that. A hair ended up on the seal, and once they did the pressure check, they saw it, opened it back up, found it, removed it, and then resealed it, and they were good to go for launch. And so there's a bit of margin in this countdown, and we're in that kind of flexible time right now where they have time to work through methodically on this procedure. Nick, we don't want to end the story with the end of MS-10. We want to go to MS-12, which was the next space flight, your next launch. And here you are now with a crew of 3. You said, I'm going back.
Yeah. That's the job. I mean, we explore because it's important, and so that doesn't change launch to launch to launch. The mindset to get back on top of the rocket isn't any different the first time than it is the second time, than it is the third time. It's, why am I willing to accept this risk? Why is my family willing to accept this risk? And it's because what we're doing up there is so important. The scientific discovery, the learning about the human body and how we interact with the environment around us, and more about the universe around us, that's just so important. And so that's why you do it. And so this time, night launch. So I got a day launch and a night launch, a twofer. And
lucky you.
It was beautiful. And you saw Christina had joined. She was going up for a year-long mission. And Alexa and I gave it another shot, and it was flawless all the way to docking. A spectacular flight.
And this was in 2019.
2019.
Just a little less than a year after MS-10 in October of 2018.
Yeah, 5 months. So we had the launch. So we had our launch abort, and then 2 months later. 2 months later, MS-11 launched, and they had fixed the problem. They diagnosed what the problem was with the rocket, and then 5 months later, we were on board. It takes a lot to keep the station going. We've been doing it for 25 years, and so that drumbeat of rotations of crews has to keep going.
Absolutely, and you fulfilled your role, and that photo we just saw was the completion of a successful mission to the International Space Station. When you returned from space and were being brought out of that capsule.
Yeah, it was, it's ironic because where our abort landed was in the normal landing zone. We landed there almost a year to the day later in that landing zone. And so it was the culmination of a pretty interesting year, needless to say.
How about that? As you look around, right, and go, I remember this place. But you felt a lot different.
Yes, absolutely. It's spaceflight changes your perspective. That overview effect that everybody talks about. The way you perceive the globe and how connected we are and just how special the Earth is. It's profound. I wish we could get more people up there.
I hear this time and again from other astronauts that
the more, we're almost up to 700 people now that have gone into space. I'd love that to be, 700,000 people. Even if it's for short periods of time. As a veteran that's done a suborbital flight as well as an orbital flight, it's all good.
I'm sure many of our audience, I know I would love to go someday, and that's of course the aim of the Commercial Crew program, is to make space more accessible to more people. And so finally, your most recent mission, 2024, in September of that year. Not too long ago, you launched back into space on Crew 9. This, of course, launched from right here on the Space Coast, Launch Complex 40, as you mentioned, the first crewed mission from that pad. But there was only 2 of you. And we've talked about this. This was a crew of 2 for a special reason. You had an important mission for Crew 9.
Yeah, the seat 1 and 4 there you can see are empty on the uphill portion, and and that was to accommodate Butch and Sonny coming back home with Alex and I 6 months later. So we were launching on a normal rotational mission to the station, and planning to do our 6-month long duration mission. And job 1, as soon as we opened that hatch, was integrating Butch and Sonny into the Crew 9 crew, and then continuing to do that research mission.
There you are, lifting off.
I got to say that the weather today is so much better than it was back then. We had a hurricane blow through a day or so before, and then there was a window and a little hole in the weather, and we shot through it. I think they've got a better weather today.
There you are with your full crew of 4 on the way back home.
Yeah, you can see Butch in the far field there. Sonny's just off the camera, close to us, and yeah, coming home.
A very successful mission, Crew 9, bringing back home Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams. I imagine, did you have to kind of, wrangle Sonny out of that space station? She loves being in space.
I think it's universal. I mean, you want to get home to see your family after being gone for that long. You want to get back to some of the things you miss about being on Earth, but you're also sad to close the hatch and to leave that environment up there that's just so special. You never know when you're going to get back, if you're ever going to get back, because everybody's future is, you just don't know, and it is just so. It just has such a huge effect on everything that you do, and you bring that back. And so missing out on being able to float around or look out the window, or, in some respects, it's see all of my, my crewmates. So I haven't seen Alex since right after landing. I haven't seen Alexei and Oleg since the station. And so you feel this sense of time passing and the moment ending.
We are T-minus 2 hours and 10 minutes until liftoff of Crew 11, NASA and SpaceX's rotational mission to the International Space Station. In a little less than an hour, we are going to expand coverage with our friends from SpaceX joining our launch broadcast, and we'll come up on camera so you can see us, see Nick live in the flesh here as he steps us through the operations today all the way to liftoff and into orbit.